Projected #1 overall pick Gavin McKenna decided that he's going to be playing Division 1 before he goes to the NHL. And that might not sound shocking to you until you realize what it really means. What it means is that Division 1 NCAA hockey is no longer just college amateur hockey. It is truly professional hockey now. And ultimately what it is a feeder system to the NHL. Now, this has slowly been happening for a very long time, but now with the rule change in Canada, where major junior teams are now allowed to send their players to Division 1 after, players now have the option to choose where the best development is before they go to the NHL, and guess where they're going to go? I think that most players are going to start choosing Division 1, and with McKenna making this decision, he's essentially saying that D1 is going to be the best opportunity for me to develop and prepare to play in the NHL. This is a really big deal because ultimately this is putting a stake in the ground and saying D1 is professional hockey, and there is a lot of implications to this. The implication fundamentally is that the professionalization of sports is working its way down. It's a trickle effect that's going to slowly continue to happen. So it went from just being pro to then college has really become the feeder system for the NHL and professional hockey, or now it truly is. It already was becoming that way, but it's now becoming clearly stated that players are going to now be coming from junior, all levels of junior in North America, and also from other countries coming over. They're going to be primarily going Division 1 before they go to the NHL or high level pro. And that is a very significant thing because now what we're going to see is the intensity in the professionalization of youth sports. And that's a big deal because we are going to start to see junior become more and more professionalized. Prep is already super professionalized and it's going to become more. And even youth hockey is going to become professionalized and treated like pro hockey at an extremely young age. And the problem I see with this is players are now going to be forced to deal with adult professional level problems at 12, 13, 14 years old. And in this video, I'm going to break down 4 steps players and parents must take if they want to survive and give themselves the best possible chance of having a chance to play D1 hockey or professional in the future. And if you don't know who I am, my name's Corson Searles. I played hockey for 20 years, all the way up to the Division 3 level. I've worked with hundreds of players on the mental game, how to develop and become the best performers on and off the ice. And understanding how to succeed in hockey and how to be the best mentally prepared player on the ice is what I do 24/7. And so let's break this whole thing down. I think there's 4 key steps that every parent, every player needs to be thinking about when it comes to the player's development if you want to have the best chance at playing Division 1 and ultimately Division 1 being the best chance at playing pro in North America. This is how to navigate the professionalized system, and not from an agent perspective, because I'm not an agent, I'm not an advisor, I'm a performance coach. I'm about helping players develop the product that they are on the ice, who they are on and off the ice as a person, so that they have the best chance of moving up. And so the first core step that you want to take is go all in or step out. So what I mean by this is if you're going to pursue pro, you need to just go all in. You can't hesitate. You can't say, oh, well, maybe next year we'll start taking it seriously. It has to be right now. If your son or daughter is 9, 10, 11, I know it sounds urgent. I know it sounds a little ridiculous, but if you want them to be on a Division 1 path, you have to make the investment in them early on. They need to start taking the game seriously. And if they don't feel like it's that serious, it's important to just step out. Realize, look, odds are you're probably not going to have a good chance of being on one of the top teams early on. It's going to be very hard to compete and work your way up. Now, I get that this isn't a great sounding mindset, and I'm basically saying, well, kind of give up. But I'm not saying give up. I'm just saying become aware that the chances go down a lot if you're not serious at a younger age now, because there's going to be a gap that begins much earlier now. And it's going to be very, very hard to make up the gap that's now going to occur, especially in Canada, where you're going to see a lot of these super teams essentially funnel up and then hand off their players to good prep teams, good junior teams, and that will just become a really consistent feeder system, I believe. And so essentially it's treat it as a pro from now on, all year round training, going all in, or just relax, have fun, enjoy it, play on the best team you can, but accept that, D1 probably isn't your path, and that's totally fine. And with that in mind, that's where this idea of, I would really think investing in yourself, and if you're a parent, like thinking, what can I do to invest in my son or daughter to make them a player who's on a separating trajectory, right? They're on the path to be different than other players. That's what I'd be thinking about a lot right now. And again, this is just if I was a parent in your position and thinking about how can I give my son or daughter the best chance of succeeding. And so a key lens to look at this from when it comes to like development is I would be thinking long-term development, but I would have this idea of all-in investment in terms of year to year, but then I'd be thinking long-term of how can I develop and strategize who I'm going to be. So maybe one year the emphasis is on putting in skating as the core pillar and investing a ton of time, money, energy into that. Then it's developing an elite shot and putting a ton of time, money, energy into that. Then it's developing the hands, right? There's going to be pieces of the puzzle. Now, of course, you work on everything, but it's having an emphasis on certain areas and really mastering them. And it might not make them the best player this year, but if this year you're working really hard, and then what will happen is that over the course of 3-4 years, you will slowly separate when all those kind kind of core pieces, all those components all stacked together to be a more complete player, to be ahead of players. So that's kind of the thought process there, is to take that more seriously, essentially. And so what I mean, just to summarize this, is to think in terms of 2, 3, or even 4-year chunks and think about where you want that player to be, what this is going to look like. And I think that strategy just becomes more important. Long-term thinking becomes more important, but not just 10 years ahead anymore. You can't be a late bloomer. You have to kind of contract that to, again, probably 2 to 3 years, and thinking, what can I do investment-wise to create separation in those 2 to 3 years? And thinking about from this point of, by the time a player is about 16, they need to be on a Division I path. They need to be somebody who's getting looked at, generally speaking. It's going to be very hard to get a lot of good Division I looks when you're essentially, 17, 18, 19, if you haven't already had eyes on you. Doesn't mean you can't. It just means that that's what needs to be generally happening if you want the best chance of succeeding. Third step is I would be focusing on building mental ability and hockey IQ ability. The reason I say this is because everybody's in the gym, everybody is working on the extra skills. And yes, I know I just said to invest in skills, but what I mean is treat the mental game as just as important as the physical game, because there's going to be so many players who have a ton of skill. There already are, and they're going to get better and better. But the mental game is going to be that piece that allows a player to get the most out of their skill set. And it's going to become mandatory. It's not going to be negotiable anymore. It's going to be, you either work on the mental game or you just don't have a chance of succeeding. That's essentially what's going to happen. And so I'd be looking at the game from these 4 pillars. You have mental ability, you have hockey IQ ability. So mental ability, this is the core mental side of it, which is the ability to get into flow state, confidence in yourself, trust yourself, be able to reset after mistakes and bad games. This is what I fundamentally teach. Then you have the IQ piece. It's the ability to make effective decisions on the ice, be a smarter player than other players, get the most out of your ability in terms of skill set. You have the physical ability, which is the stuff in the gym, getting your body to do what you want it to do. And then you have mechanical ability. It's how efficiently do you move. Good skater, good shooter, good stick handler, good at battling and hitting. All of those things are how well you move. That's a key piece. Essentially what I'm saying is that from a younger age, players and parents need to take these things more seriously if you want a real shot at D1, because you are competing against the best players in each age group now. And ultimately, if you don't train the mental game, this is just my belief, you are going to end up being behind because other players are doing all the other work. You have to then do something to separate now, and soon enough, everybody's going to be doing it, and it's not going to be unusual anymore. And now just to go deeper, so the 4th core step here is you should be training toughness and confidence. So like we talked about, players are going to get benched, they're going to get overlooked, they're going to get looked down upon, they're going to get lied to at times, they're going to deal with players being more critical of them, they're going to have scouts looking at them at younger ages. All that stuff is inevitable. The difference maker is ultimately going to come down to how much do they continue to believe in themselves when they face adversity? How resilient are they? How quickly can they reset after a mistake or a bad game or a bad week? Can they show up consistently game after game? Because you don't know which game scouts are going to be at. They need to perform at essentially every game, because maybe a scout sees them 1 or 2 times. If they play bad in those 2 games, even if it's 2 out of 3 games the player plays well, if it just happens to be the scout sees 2 bad games, boom, probably not going to be on their list anymore. So fundamentally, I'm saying you need to build mental toughness, you need to build mental resilience, because that's going to be the key to separate and give you the best chance of displaying your skill set and having teams at the next level see you. And it also might mean teams that you want to go to. If you want to go to a super team and be able to have the best chance in these minor hockey teams, you're going to need to show up well, present well, so you can have a chance at playing there sooner, like next year or in the next couple of years. So here's the thing. I don't like this, but I think that minor hockey is becoming a professional sport. It is becoming way more serious. It's becoming just like the pros, and the pressure is real. The politics are going to get even more real, and only players who train both their physical game and their mental game are really going to thrive. And so that's why you need to work on the mental game. You need to think long term. You need to step fully into this development, start investing in yourself, and really build that mental toughness and confidence so you can handle all the challenges that are going to come. And if you really want help with this, again, I've played for 20 years. I've been through it. I've dealt with a lot of challenges. I've worked with hundreds of players. I've had hundreds of conversations with scouts, with agents, with advisors, with different teams and players and coaches. And I've helped tons of players actually navigate these exact challenges. If you want your son or daughter to thrive in this pro-like environment at a younger age, have the best chance of not just staying with the pack, but separating, then I'm happy to offer a free mental performance assessment call so that you guys can actually check this out. We can talk with you, do a full assessment. We have you fill out an application where you actually fill out all the details about your game. We learn about how your mental game works. We do an assessment beforehand with a form where we actually look at the details of how your game works, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are mentally, and then we help you develop a plan. And if it makes sense, we'll let you know that we think we'd be a good fit to work together, and we can talk more about that too. So you can click that link, you can check it out, and then we'll see if it is the right move for you. Either way, I appreciate you watching the video. Hope you have a great week. I know this stuff is stressful, but we're here for you. I'll try to help you as best I can for free with these videos. If you want to see anything else, let me know, and I'll see you in the next video.